Straight up. Welcome to your Way Happy Bible Study. I'm Lisa Dennis Sparks, and you're watching Christians United Broadcasting Network. CUBN, where we want to see you be encouraged in Jesus' name. Let's ask some questions about this, okay? Now it says in verse 3, it says, now notice you're talking about in verse 2 of 18, you're looking at where Babylon the Great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Unclean and hateful birds, you mean like vultures and eagles? For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. All nations. Who else have all nations drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication? All nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. So see, America has been paying off all of these little nations around the world, giving them aid money for years and years and years, and they control them with it. They say, okay, you want your $3 billion in aid this year? You've got to allow homosexuality. You've got to allow gay marriage. You've got to compromise your standards, and you have to do this and this, and they are corrupting all the rest of the world with their man. It sure doesn't sound good, does it? Let's ask some more questions here. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. This is Revelation 18:3. And the kings of the earth, kings of all the other nations, have committed fornication with her. Is it talking about America? Is this talking about how the kings of the earth have compromised their standards? They have compromised morality. They have compromised for the money. And who else? What other nations? What other nation could apply here where it says the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies? Who could that be? It's not Rome. Rome's not that important. The Vatican is the whore of Babylon. Rome isn't running the world. The Vatican is. But who is empowering the Vatican? is it, what nation has taken the Vatican's message all over the world into every country? It might be us, guys. It might be. What other nation? If so, then it says, her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her, double according to her works. Into the cup which she hath filled to her double. How much she hath glorified herself, and lived deliciously. So much torment and sorrow give her. Who else could it be? Anybody? You got any other options? Who else could it be than America? Hey, if you got another answer, I'm open. I don't want America destroyed. I don't want to see that. But in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints and of all that were slain upon the earth. Let's keep going. It's a possibility. It says, a mighty angel, in verse 21, it says, a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. And the voice of harpers and musicians and of pipers and trumpeters shall be heard no more at all in thee. A lot of music comes out of America, doesn't it? And no craftsman of whatever craft he be shall be found any more in thee. We're a nation of craftsmen. And the sound of a millstone shall be heard no more at all in thee. That is producing food. And the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee. Why? Because are we covered in ash from Yellowstone? And the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. Well, where is it where the voice of the bridegroom and the bride are heard? For thy merchants were the great men of the earth. For by thy sorceries, drugs, were all nations deceived. Thy sorceries, drugs, riches, delicacies. Which nation has taken the Catholic message all over the world into every nation? Okay. It's possible. Okay. It's possible that when that sixth seal opens, if those astronomical conditions are right for the situation, it could cause the Yellowstone caldera to blow its top. Now it says here in verse 21, a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. Now it's not saying we're drowned. Okay? It doesn't say we're drowned. It says we burn with fire. It says in verse 8 of chapter 18, therefore shall her plagues come in one day. Death and mourning and famine. And she shall be utterly burned with fire. For strong is the Lord God who judgeth her. That's not nukes. That is a volcano blast is what it sounds like to me. And then you look over here in Joel chapter 2, where we were just at, and it says a day, it says the timing is prior to the second half, but that it's very shortly ahead. Verse 2, it says a day of darkness and of gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness, as the morning spread upon the mountains. You're looking at billowing clouds, thick, dark, just covering the land. It says, a great people and a strong, there hath not ever been the like. Who could that be except America? Neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. There's never going to be, during the whole rest of the prophetic game, there is never a nation as strong and prosperous that takes the Catholic false gospel around the world into every nation. A fire devoureth before them. Look at this. In Joel chapter 2, verse 3. A fire devoureth before them, and behind them a flame burneth. The land is as the Garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness. Yea, and nothing shall escape them. Now, let's talk about them that it's talking about here. Maybe not just Yellowstone. Maybe also Satan and his 1/3 being cast down. Let's look at this army in Joel chapter 2. And we're going to start at verse 4. It's talking about the appearance. Now, it's possible. See, if this was to happen to America, it says that we would be overrun by demons and evil birds and things like that. Remember what it said in 18? It said, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. How can any city be a cage for a bird? Birds can fly. But there's nowhere to fly to if it's talking about America, is there? You'd have to fly south. If birds can't fly east over the oceans or west over the ocean, that would make it a cage, wouldn't it, for the birds that are here? Wreckage, huh? I hope this is not the case, but it could be. We may be totally out of the game before it even gets started here in the going into the second half. Okay. Now let's talk about these things that are here. I don't know if I don't know what's going on here as far as these spirits, these devils, these whatever they are, they're bad. Notice in verse 4 of Joel chapter 2, the appearance of them is as the appearance of horses. There's a lot of them. And as horsemen, so shall they run. These things are fast, like horses. They can run as fast as a horse, these devils. They can run as fast as a horse. Like the noise of chariots on the tops of mountains shall they leap. Like the noise of a flame of fire that devoureth the stubble, as a strong people set in battle array. Before their face the people shall be much pained. All faces shall gather blackness. All faces. shall gather blackness. Everybody's just like, I mean, the dread will just come over people. And it talks about in the word about how these things will cause men's hearts to fail them for fear, for what they see coming upon the earth. In verse 6 of Joel chapter 2, before their face, the people shall be much pained. Much pained. Can you imagine? We're already dying with Yellowstone if it blows. And then we're overrun with devils? Really? All faces shall gather blackness. Men's hearts shall fail them for fear of the things they see coming. In verse 7, they shall run like mighty men. They shall climb the wall like men of war. They shall march every one on his ways, and they shall not break their ranks. Not only are we looking at the possibility that our nation here in America could fall because of a volcano, a super volcano, which, by the way, could, if it erupted, cause a worldwide great earthquake. Carnage, huh? I hope this is not how it turns out. I hope I'm wrong on this. Please let me be wrong on all this. In verse 8, neither shall one thrust another, they shall walk every one in his path, and when they fall upon the sword, they shall not be wounded. They're immortals. You can't kill them. They're the reapers. You can't defeat something that can't die when you can die. They shall run to and fro in the city. They shall run upon the wall. They shall climb up upon the houses. They shall enter in at the windows like a thief. The earth shall quake before them. Do they come up from the caldera? I don't know. But it sounds possible that they could come up out of this hole in the ground or whatever that is erupting, because they walk through the fire. They're immortals. The fire doesn't affect them. The earth shall quake before them. The heavens shall tremble. And the heavens are trembling anyway, even if this doesn't happen, because of this, all of the things that are going on out there right now. The sun and the moon shall be dark, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. Whoa. And the Lord shall utter his voice before his army. For his camp is very great. For he is strong that executeth his word. For the day of the Lord is great and very terrible. Who can abide it? Who can abide it? Therefore also now saith the Lord, turn ye even to me with all your heart, and with fasting, and with weeping, and with mourning. And rend your heart and not your garments. Don't go tearing your clothes. You bear your heart to God. Rend your heart. Break your heart. Okay? Cry. Go before the Lord and cry out to him. If you find yourself in this situation, he says, rend your heart and not your garments, and turn unto the Lord your God. For he is graceful, gracious, and merciful, slow to anger, and of great kindness, and repenteth him of the evil. Who knoweth if he will return and repent, and leave a blessing behind him, even a meat offering and a drink offering unto the Lord your God? Blow the trumpet in Zion, sanctify a fast, call a solemn assembly, gather the people, sanctify the congregation, Assemble the elders, gather the children and those that suck the breasts. Let the bridegroom go forth of his chamber and the bride out of her closet. Now, this is where he comes. The New Jerusalem arrives in space above us. Let the priests, the ministers of the Lord, weep between the porch and the altar, and let them say, spare thy people, O Lord, and give not thine heritage to reproach, that the heathen should rule over them. Wherefore should they say among the people, where is their God? Then will the Lord be jealous for his land and pity his people. See, we have been standing for Israel. But those who have been running our nation for years are not friends to Israel, even though they say they are. Because ISIS was a Western creation, ladies and gentlemen. Western armed, Western funded, Western trained. Now, I really like our president. I think he's a good man as far as being a president goes. The man's not a good husband. So what? We didn't elect him to be a husband to us. We elected him to be a president. I'm not here to judge the man's moral character, and the hypocrisy is just ridiculous among those who received Clinton's discretions with, oh, that's no big deal. But then they want to take Trump down for his. Come on. The hypocrisy is just ridiculous. It's not Trump that is taking us down. It is those who are so weak-minded that they cannot let the other half of the country run things for a while, okay? They would rather tear the whole country down than accept the results of elections that come every 4 years, like the Olympics, for heaven's sakes. They're going to tear the whole country apart because they can't handle the result of an election? Really? Elections are like the Olympics, come every 4 years. But they would rather tear the country apart, tear it down, burn it to the ground, rather than prepare for the next election and try to win it. I mean, insanity has taken over this nation. And we have become a scourge in the world to the people of God all over the world. Carnage, because I love my country. I love America. And I hope this is not talking about America. I hope it's not, but it sure sounds like it. I can't think of another nation in the world that meets this description. Can you? Give me one. Anybody. Anybody. You got any other nation or city in the world that this description applies to? Okay. Now, in verse 19 of Joel chapter 2, yea, the Lord will answer and say unto his people, behold, I will send you corn and wine and oil, and ye shall be satisfied therewith. It could be that many, if this does take place, many of our people will, it would be a slow death from starvation, because there won't be any more food grown. Won't be any more food for everybody. But God says, I will send you corn and wine and oil, and you shall be satisfied therewith. I will no more make you a reproach among the heathen. And that he's talking about his people. And you know that there are at least 6 million, maybe more, Jews in this nation. Let me see, how many Jewish people are there in America? Let's see what it says. How many Jews are there in the United States? There are about 4.2 million American adults who say they are Jewish by religion, representing 1.8% of the U.S. adult population. But I think there's more than that. Jewish population. Now, the United States, Jewish population in the world. Let me look at this under JewishVirtualLibrary.org. United States, 5,700,000 Jews. So you're looking at about 6 million here. You're looking at, as far as Jewish people, you've got 44.4% in Israel. You've got 39.3% in the United States. And then from there, the largest is 3.1 in France, 2.7 Canada, 2.0 in the UK. Then it goes to Argentina, Russia, Germany, and the numbers get smaller. So Israel and the United States is the only two nations where there are double-digit percentages of Jews. All right. And this is going to be very important. Man. Now, get this, in 1939, you had 16,728,000 Jews in the world. But in 1945, you only had 11 million. And then it's come up slowly since then. And now it is 14,511,100 is what the Jewish Virtual Library says is the current world Jewish population. Reekage. Now, it says here, let's keep going. In verse 20 of Joel chapter 2, but I will remove far off from you the northern army. Now he's talking about the Jews now here. And will drive him into a land barren and desolate with his face toward the east sea. So he's talking about Turkey, Iran, and Russia. Because once America is out of the game, you're looking at all the world's Jewry is pretty much in Israel. There's little percentages all over the world. But this is the big chunk here in America. He's going to remove from them the northern army and drive him into a land barren and desolate with his face toward the east sea and his hinder part toward the utmost sea. That is between the sea, the Mediterranean Sea, and the Sea of Galilee in Israel's north. And his stink shall come up, and his ill savor shall come up. You're talking about millions of dead people, or at least hundreds of thousands, because he hath done great things. God is here, and he intervenes for Israel. Fear not, O land, be glad and rejoice, for the Lord will do great things. Be not afraid, ye beasts of the field, for the pastures of the wilderness do spring. For the tree beareth her fruit, the fig tree and the vine do yield their strength. So Jesus is the vine. The fig tree is Israel, the nation. In verse 23, be glad then, ye children of Zion, and rejoice in the Lord your God, for he hath given you the former rain moderately, and will cause to come down for you the rain, the former rain and the latter rain in the first month. And the floors shall be full of wheat, and the vats shall overflow with wine and oil. And I will restore to you the years that the locust hath eaten, the cankerworm, the caterpillar, the palmer worm, my great army which I sent among you. And ye shall eat in plenty and be satisfied, and praise the name of the Lord your God. So while the rest of the world is going into global famine, Israel is prospering. Praise the name of the Lord your God that hath dealt wondrously with you, and my people shall never be ashamed. And ye shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and I am the Lord your God, and none else, and my people shall never be ashamed. And it shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out after these things. It shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh. And your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Your old men shall dream dreams. Your young men shall see visions. And also upon the servants and upon the handmaids in those days I will pour out my spirit. This is in Israel after. This is during the second half. And I will show wonders in the heavens and in the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke. Blood and fire and pillars of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood, before the great and terrible day of the Lord come. And it shall come to pass that whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord shall be delivered. For in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem shall be deliverance, as the Lord hath said, and in the remnant whom the Lord shall call. Man. That's bad. Okay. Let's let me look and see if anybody over here has any questions. Carnage.